You're listening to the E2C Network, podcast by Auburn fans for Auburn fans. War Eagle Auburn family, and welcome back to Inside the Jungle, your source for Auburn men's basketball analysis and discussion here on the E2C Network. On this episode, we are thankfully breaking down an Auburn Tigers win, this time over the Tennessee Volunteers, number 25 Tennessee Volunteers. Tigers get the win in the AUtlive Cancer game at home in Auburn Arena by the score of 77-72. Their overall record now stands at 12-13 on the year, 6-10 in the SEC. We're going to talk about everything, all the good things from this game, the action, the stats, storylines, everything around it. To do that, I brought in my friend and my co-host, Mr. Gray Oldenburg. Gray, how does it feel to get a win?
Oh, it's great. It's so refreshing to be talking about an Auburn Tigers win.
You know, in last episode, I blamed you, and rightfully so. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, I like to throw the blame around to the new people because I've been doing this long enough. We know I'm not the jinx. I was here during the Final Four run, so any new blood in here, you're the problem. I'm kidding. But yes, it is nice to talk to you, and we actually get to break down some exciting things about this game. And there's a lot going on around this game, even aside from the actual score of the game that we want to discuss at the start with our kind of around the program, whether it's in or out of it, type of storylines and things. I think the first thing I want to touch on, this is a personal note for me here. I don't know if Gray actually knows this or not, but this is a very important game for me every year, the AUtlive Cancer game, because I lost my father to cancer several years back. And so the fact that Bruce has taken upon himself, not obviously from my father in any way, but from anybody who has battled cancer and has done this at his time during Tennessee, has done it now here at Auburn for several years, and he now coordinates with the Tennessee game. I think it's beautiful marketing. I think it's a genius move on his part, and I just love seeing this every day. Do you have any of the AUtlive Cancer shirts?
I do. I have one. Yep.
I need to get more in my closet. That's Here I am saying I love this game, the particular game that he schedules every year, but I don't have enough of those. I just think it's a great way that he can bring attention to it every year and around a very important game, because I think you and I both agree that Auburn and Tennessee, usually in a normal year, don't you think the SEC runs through this game?
I agree. Two of the top three programs in the SEC right now are these two, and two teams that I wouldn't say Tennessee is struggling at the rate that Auburn has as of recent, but not a team that is living up to the expectations that they got preseason. So, it's weird. You know, like you said last episode, we were talking about how the ESPN executives were probably like, "Oh my," I mean, seriously. But really? It turned out to be a great game, just like that Auburn Kentucky game did.
See, I think that's the thing that too is with this matchup, there's a lot here at stake because of Bruce's history with Tennessee. Yes. And, you know, while the sharpness of that time and that departure he had that has probably gone completely at this point, considering the success he's had since then and the way that Tennessee's had success since he's been gone, I think now it's one of those things that level of the rivalry is now gone. It's just the respect of two really great programs at this point. Absolutely. And knowing that really in a typical year outside of this year, the SEC has to come through us in some fashion. And I would argue even still to this day, that's still the case, because while Auburn will not be participating in any postseason play, including the SEC tournament, the Tennessee game is going to have important implications on how this shakes out for seeding and stuff, not just for the SEC tournament, but postseason tournaments as well beyond that. Yep. A couple other big notes here is that Sharif Cooper is still out. However, Justin Powell was back on the bench. You pointed this out to me. I didn't even notice it. Were you surprised by that?
I was honestly very surprised. It's great to see him back out there, you know, with his teammates and being able to watch it, because he hasn't been able to even watch these games. It's great to see him back out there, enjoying time with his friends and teammates, and just getting back in the flow of things, because he's got an important offseason coming up.
So let me ask this again. I think we've touched on this before in previous episodes. You've had a concussion, right?
I have, yeah.
So in my understanding, I have not, fortunately, knock on wood, is that just simply getting back to something like this where there's commotion, there's sound, there's light, there's a lot going on. When you have that type of head injury, just getting back to be able to be around is like a huge accomplishment. Is that the case?
It really is, yeah.
So that the fact that he's actually out there on the
is
floor
huge for his development in that injury. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that he's actually going to be able to just take that in and handle that right now, that's a big step. Now, everybody, let's pump the brakes here. In fact, the TV announcers were doing this all throughout the game, trying to tease, well, maybe Sharif Cooper will come back and maybe Justin Powell can play in the last game of the year. I don't see that happening. I will say, though, there were some media outlets that were kind of pushing the story that Auburn has not ruled him out for the rest of the games this season. You buying that, or are you going to sell that?
No, I'm not buying that at all. I just don't think it's worth it to him and to the team right now. I think getting him back out there on the sideline like today was worth it, for his development and the injury and for, his, confidence, self-esteem. I think that's as high as we're going to get, though.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well. And here's the thing. I always operate when you get rumors and speculation, things like that, on the side of it's not going to happen, so that I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite side of that, when it doesn't happen like I thought it wasn't going to, I'm not there going to fall as far as most other people. That's just the way I like to operate after being disappointed by my Auburn Tigers time and time again. Anyway. More on, one more thing before we get to this game. Just a fun little note, nothing we have to really spend a lot of time on, but I just like to talk about these things. Keon Johnson of Tennessee actually has a connection to Auburn. He's the son of Consuela Sparrow, who played under Joe Champy for the Auburn women's basketball team here at a time. So I thought that was kind of neat. And here's my question to you, though. We had this recent player with Austin Wiley who had a connection through at least one of the programs, and Vicky Orr being his mother.
Yep.
Does that worry you that we weren't able to bring in a player like Keon Johnson when we had that tied to him, similar to an Austin Wiley? I mean, any thoughts on that?
I don't think we should look into that as much as you're trying to get me to look into that right now. But that's something that's cool. I think a lot of those players that have those connections do look at the schools that they have connections to. And a lot of them are, fans of those schools because of, in Wiley's case, he was an Auburn fan growing up because that's where his mama went.
Yeah.
But ties like that are cool. And especially if you can see a tie like that in a recruit, that's an easy recruiting tool you could use for the player.
Absolutely. It is. I'm not trying to make too much out of it here, but I just find that interesting when you get a guy like Austin Wiley, one of the highest rated recruits that we had in some time at the time he was recruited, able to bring him in, but you weren't able to bring in Keon Johnson. I was just interested, like how big a thing that would have been for the Sparrow family or the Johnson family with his last name. What would have played into that? A couple other notes from around this game. This is the 6th win in a row.
6 in a row.
Auburn and Bruce Pearl over the Tennessee Volunteers. I saw one Travis of, I guess, ESPN, if he's still part of that, I can't remember or not, roasting Tennessee for the decision to fire Bruce Pearl based off of what just happened with this game and now 6 in a row. What do you think about the win streak? I mean, is Rick Barnes ever going to get a win again against Bruce Pearl?
No, it won't happen. It won't happen. No, it's great. It's great to have not only a chip on a program like Tennessee, but that's also a great recruiting tool, because we're recruiting against Tennessee and a lot of these players that we're going after now, especially going for higher recruits now with Pearl. Yeah. And that's another recruiting tool, show me where Tennessee has beaten Auburn in the last 6 times, then make your decision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it is a great recruiting tool. Auburn's making a lot of headway in the Kentucky, the Tennessee areas in terms of showing that those players that are coming out of those regions that, hey, yeah, it may be smart for you to kind of look a little bit closer to home, but look at the players that chose us over those home state type of things. Come on over here and give us a look because we're doing big things right now. So great little stat there to look at. And it's also the 2nd win of the season over a ranked opponent, with Tennessee just barely being ranked after their struggles they've had of recent.
Which is more than Alabama.
This is very true. Don't skip ahead. Look, I know you want to talk about this game. I know you're hyped about it. We got to finish the Tennessee one. Let's enjoy what we have right now and talk about that. So let me move along before Greg gets any more impatient to talk about that. The Tennessee game, in case you weren't able to watch, listen, I always like to give you kind of how it went down. First half, Auburn was able to get off to a pretty solid start, powered by their defense, but also Tennessee making some usual road mistakes with a lot of turnovers. Yep. Auburn did go into the first half into that with the score 34-30. Now, in the second half, it remained close for most of it, with Auburn continuing to try to build a lead, but Tennessee fought back several times, but it was just too much for them to overcome on the road. The Tigers eventually get the win. 77-72, and the upset victory today. I think the big story here and the big success of this is Mr. Allen Flanigan finally having one of those games that we were used to. What did you think about his play today?
It was great. He's back in his natural position, giving Jamal Johnson the more point guard role, the more it's more on you to get people in sets, and he did a fantastic job of that today. And Allen got back in that role that he was used to when we were playing games earlier in the year, when we had Powell and Turbo and guys like that. And he showed out tonight. He was hitting big shots. He was getting to the free throw line. He was getting rebounds. He was great.
The TV announcers described him as being creative. And I think that is what a shooting guard, and what his typical position, the two guard, for another way of saying that, is they're best when they're able to adapt. They're able to move around a little bit more. They're not focusing on setting the rest of the players up. And while I want to stress that he still had some point guard responsibilities tonight, and I think that was beautiful job by Coach Bruce Pearl to, we weren't in the locker room, but you could kind of tell that's what would happen. He looked at both those guys and said, you both are point guards. We're going to try to keep you in together as much as we can so y'all can share that responsibility. And when that happened, you saw both of them maximizing your potential. To be fair, Allen Flanigan more tonight with 23 points, 7 for 14 from the field, had an outstanding game. And this is the type of game that we saw from him early on the season when he was shooting up the NBA draft boards. Do you think it's too little too late for him at this point?
Yeah, I hope it is, so he can come back next year.
So you're being selfish is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah, but yeah, I do just because I think if we were playing in the postseason, I don't think it is because you saw guys like, for example, Jarrett Culver at Texas Tech, when they went on that run, he shot up the draft boards like in late March, while the tournament was going on, because he was playing so well in the tournament. So I think if we had a postseason play, then no, it's not too late. But now with only 2 games left, yeah, I think it is.
When I'm looking down the stat sheet right here, one of the things I like to look at for a barometer is how often that Devin Cambridge is shooting the ball. When you take 10 3-pointers, that tells me that you are feeling comfortable enough that I can risk a couple of these things. So he didn't have the greatest 3-point percentage. He knocked down 2 of them tonight. But I think that's a good barometer test for how well the Auburn offense at least was feeling tonight. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Him shooting 10 3-pointers shows you that he is a shooter, and shooters are going to shoot. And whether they're going down or they're not, he knows that the next one's going to go in, or the next one's going to go in. Well, that one I missed, the next one's going to go in. And that shows you that confidence and that leadership that he's building. And I'm really excited about him.
And when you look at the starters here, all producing, that probably it loosens everybody else up to be a little bit more creative as well. So when, you've got a guy going off like Allen Flanigan that really kind of is drawing the attention of the defense towards him to stop him from what he's doing, it begins to relieve a little bit of that pressure off of defensive pressure, but pressure individually as well to produce. And it opens up a little bit more creativity for a lot of these players, maybe a little bit too much in the case of Devin Cambridge with 3-point shooting. But hey, man, shoot your shot. Shooter's going to shoot, as you said like that. Hey, Auburn family, we're going to take a quick breather from this episode to bring you an important message. One of the most well-known things about Auburn fans is how loyal they are, and we show that loyalty by the colors that we wear. Let us help you stock up on those colors by going over to our tpublic.com store. There you'll find a variety of merchandise geared towards designs based on E2C Network and Auburn content. While TeePublic is known for their t-shirts, they have a wide selection of merchandise options for you to select one of these designs to be put on. They also have other types of apparel, stickers, mugs, and much more. Here's the beauty of it. Your purchase will help support this network and the content that we regularly produce.
The purchase will also go to support independent artists who put a lot of hard work into designing these concepts, especially for you, the Auburn family. And did I mention that they regularly have sales? T-shirts for $13? You have to be kidding me. If you're ready to explore your purchase options, head on over to tpublic.com/store/E2C Network. You can also get there by going to our website at e2cnetwork.com/support. Now that you've got some options to suit up for game day, let's head back into this episode.
What else stuck out to you? Now, what other players stuck out to you from the bench or even the starters tonight?
Early in the game, I thought JT Thor was going for 30. He got a 3, and then he made a step-in move, and then got an M1 or something like that. And he was getting boards, and early in the game, I really thought we were about to see something crazy from JT Thor and something that he could rise up draft boards from. And it's like we didn't play him that much in the rest of the first half, and really that much in the second half. He still scored 10 points on 4 of 8 shooting. Didn't get to the free throw line, got 5 boards. But it seemed like we went away from Thor, and, some of that was good, going to Allen and going to Cambridge and Jamal and even Jalen. But early in the game, JT Thor showed why he's going to be a fantastic, fantastic pro player.
I'm going to put that in the decision column for Coach Bruce Pearl. Pulled him out and said, all right, don't get any crazy ideas. You're not going pro this year. We already were risking 3 going pro at the beginning of this year. We can't have you thinking about doing this too. So Auburn's actually looking in a pretty good position right here. There's still the question up in the air whether Sharif will leave or not. I think most people are getting that feeling that he's not going to go somewhere. But at this point at the end of the season, different circumstances, Auburn could be looking at 4 players leaving, potentially 4 starters leaving to go into the NBA. Thankfully, it looks at maybe at least 3 of those 4 that we've mentioned probably won't be doing that, which means that things for next year could be setting up very well here. This is a very small note, but I just think it's worth mentioning. We have been seeing Preston Cook and Lord Behrman getting a lot of playing time. And when I say a lot, let me just preface it by saying not by most people's standards. They're not getting 30 minutes or 10 minutes either. They're just seeing more time than you would typically see, not just throwaway time. This is a game that was close the entire way. Why do you think Coach Pearl is giving these two, and especially Behrman, a few extra minutes?
I think at this point, why not? Especially from Preston Cook, he's coming in when Jamal got in foul trouble in that first half when he got 3 fouls, and Jamal was he wanted Jamal to be the guy at point guard, and Flanagan stepped in that role as well. But to give 2 minutes of rest to Flanagan at the point guard role and let Preston Cook do that, and Behrman as well, I think it's a great strategy shift.
Yeah, I think you've got to start getting some of these guys more time so that, with the up in the air of whether Sharif is going to be back for any of these games. We probably don't believe that he will, but you got to have some guys ready to compete because you got 2 important games. That's I want to reiterate this to folks here. I get that we're not playing in postseason play. The season is over after this week. You better enjoy it. And what a way to start off the end of this thing. Auburn has an opportunity to end above 500. Now, it's going to be tough, but they have an opportunity to do that. So if you're down in the dumps right now, I know you can't be after a win like today, but leading into this game, enjoy it while you have it, because this might be the last time that you see Sharif Cooper in a jersey. Hope not. We hope that we've made the case to him that you don't need to go just yet, but maybe that's what's going to go on there going forward. Bench points, only 2. Does that upset you? Do you kind of let that go? Well, what do you think about that?
We've got 2 or 3 guys on our starting lineup that should be coming off the bench, but and I think that's just going to take away from that. I don't think it's that concerning. I mean, especially considering all starters except for Jalen Williams were playing 30 or more minutes.
Yeah.
So they were on the floor most of the time. So
can we talk about my boy Babatunde and his I love this guy so much. He's becoming my new fan favorite in terms of Horace Spencer used to be my fan favorite and is arguably one of my favorite basketball players Auburn's ever had. But the boy gets so excited when he gets the ball. to the point he had the easiest dunk, especially with his arm length and everything, to throw down and just like threw it into the back iron, and it just launched out of there. I think personally he's just not seen enough time, whether that's by design or just because of opportunities are not there, that when he gets the ball in that position to score, and because I've been there, you know, I've had those moments where I'm not getting the time that I would necessarily want. And so when you have those opportunities, you get so excited and just amped up to do something. Yeah. And you can imagine with him in that position to dunk, he just throws it down. I don't know what we need to do for Babatunde, but I'd like to see him contribute just a little bit more than he has. And with 8 minutes of play, I'd hope there'd be a few things there. He did get 7 rebounds though. So that's, you know, he almost led the team in rebounds. So I got to give him a little bit of credit there.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. 8 minutes is a little less than I think it should be. But yeah, I think you nailed it exactly right with him just getting a little too excited when he gets the ball. And, you know, I've been there as well, getting too excited when you're not really in the flow of things, especially when you first get out there, you get the ball and you get a dunk that easy that, you know, he'll make 10 out of 10 times in practice, or, you know, he'll make it if he does it, if he gets that dunk again. But he just got a little too amped up, and he did throw it right off the back iron.
I got to see more from my man Stretch, because like I said, you're my fan favorite. When you get those opportunities, man, you got to put it in there and show Coach Pearl that you need some more time, because I'd love to see you out there a little bit more often. You know, just looking down the team stats here, there's not really anything big that sticks out to me other than free throws. Yeah. 90% for Tennessee. Granted, they only shot 10 free throws, so they made 9 out of 10. That's still good, though. 65% for Auburn, 24 of 37 attempts. Wow. So if you miss half, just a few less of that, like half, make a few more of those, this is a game that's well in reach for Auburn. Yeah. I think this shows one of those moments where, you know, a young team is hyped up, things are going our way, and we're not focusing on the little things like just knocking down free throws. Yeah. It's very frustrating for me. I need you to, I'm going to get mad if we keep talking about it. So what's another stat that sticks out to you from the team stats?
I think winning the turnover battle is huge. You know, little higher than I want for turnovers. I think we should be between 8 and 11-ish. You know, we got 12, but winning the turnover battle was so big. And yes, we only won by 1 turnover. Tennessee had 13, we had 12, but that's big, because, you know, in previous games we haven't won the turnover battle, or we've got destroyed in the turnover battle, and it showed in the outcome.
Yeah, in times that's really what's put us out of games, especially on the road. So, you know, where you have a little bit of a cushion at home where you can maybe forgive some of those things, it's nice to not have that be another thing, you know, along with free throws that kind of put you in a position to not get this upset, because this is something that Auburn really need as an injection in the arm to, you know, move it forward in these last couple of games here, which one of them is going to be very tough. So with that, I think it's time we should discuss that, because I know you're itching to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that is the next game against the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa at that air hangar of a stadium called Coleman Coliseum. Number 6 Alabama currently, as of the game they are playing right now, I have not seen an end on it. As of this moment, when I wrote our notes down, they were 18-6, 13-2 in league play. The game will be at 6 p.m. Central Time this Tuesday, March the 2nd. And I believe that there's not been a TV announcement for this yet, which is kind of odd with a game of probably this importance. Well, that may be why there's no announcement, because they're trying to see how everything else shakes out. Because right now, Alabama, if they beat Mississippi State, who they're playing currently, they will have a share of the SEC regular season title. So it depends on how you look at it. Auburn can play spoiler regardless, meaning spoil them from getting the outright championship for the regular season, or can spoil them altogether if Mississippi State somehow beats them. I don't think that's going to happen, but regardless, Auburn has an opportunity to spoil their biggest rival. How excited for you are this?
Oh, let's do it. Please, Auburn. Auburn, please do it.
It's going to be a tough task, though. Are you surprised by how well Alabama's done this year?
Absolutely. I think they're built. To do it. You know, they've got talent all over their team. They've got they've got upperclassmen. They've got transfers. Nate Oates is, coaching his tail off right now, and they've been really successful, and it showed. But we should have beat them in Auburn Arena.
We should have, which would have been the easier route to go.
Yeah,
true. Because they will be celebrating a Iron Bowl championship in the arena. Yes, I had to say it.
Why?
But here's the thing: is at least our SGA presidents show up. Now he has an excuse this year with COVID-19, but I'm just going to say that they've made it a habit of not showing up at when it goes the other way at our arena. When Auburn has gotten the Iron Bowl victory. So a little bit of unsportsmanlike there for them. So we'll be the better sportsmen this time around some way, even if we send a video thing in. Alabama did lose previously before the game that they're currently playing to number 20 Arkansas on the road, 66-81. So when I look at Alabama, Gray, I don't see an outstanding resume outside of conference play. They have beaten everyone they pretty much should have in conference play outside of Arkansas, and I forget their other loss in conference play. But Missouri, and that at the time, and probably still to some degree, is a okay loss for them. However, you look at their non-conference, they lost to Western Kentucky, they lost to Clemson. These are not teams that, especially Western Kentucky, there was a time where they were somewhat formidable. I don't know if that really is the case anymore. So is this a case of just Alabama feasting on the SEC and is going to get pummeled when it comes to actual non-conference play in postseason? Or do you think that they're actually legit?
I don't think they're going to get pummeled in the NCAA tournament, because I think they've built a winning mentality roster, and they are good, but they are just running through the SEC, who's probably one of the bottom conferences right now in like national ranking and stuff like that. But like I said earlier, this Auburn team has more ranked wins than this Alabama team. So this resume that Alabama is building and is trying to get a 1 seed or a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament is not that great. It's not. They're good, and I'm not going to discredit them, winning the SEC title, but their resume is not that good.
So that's what's surprising to me about this, is that they're in the conversation. If you want to say as the top team in the SEC, they're in the conversation for a number 2 seed. Sure. They really shouldn't be taken seriously. Honestly, I am aware that I'm an Auburn fan. I have my orange and blue glasses on. I'm trying my best to yank them off my head right now. I just don't see it. Now, I'm saying this, knock on wood, and they'll run us into the wood probably on Tuesday. But I really just don't see them. I don't think they're the best team in the SEC. I honestly think Arkansas is, and I think that is, a testament to them getting beat by Arkansas on the road, granted, in Fayetteville the other night. But I've been the most impressed this season, not by Alabama, not by Tennessee, not by Missouri, not even by LSU, because Auburn was kind of in some dire straits at that point. Yeah. But Arkansas, I think, is the best team in the SEC as of this moment. And isn't it funny that we're still not talking about Kentucky?
That's great. It's great.
Kentucky.
They're just, they're there.
The national media wants so bad to make a case where they can get in there, and they're just no, bro.
They hit the CBS 11 o'clock game.
Let me just put it to you guys on this. Auburn has a better chance of getting into the NCAA tournament than Kentucky, and they can't. That's how awful it's been for them this year. Of course, now I've said that, and it'll prove to be untrue. They'll win
the SEC tournament.
Exactly. That's just the way my luck goes. Anyway, exciting game coming up here. Auburn's got a big 2 games that have implications for other teams, but still implications for themselves and the perception of the program going forward. Get a 500 win on the end of the year if you can win these last 2 games. So lots to look forward to, and we'll hopefully be talking about a win when we get back together. That's all we have here on this episode. But before we get out of here, Gray, where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Gray Oldenburg or on Instagram at GrayO21.
And you can find me on Twitter as well at TigerEye24. And until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
Before you get out of here, we want to remind you of a couple of things. Head over to e2cnetwork.com, our website where you can find everything that you'll ever need from us, podcasts, blogs, and even ways to help support the show. If you want to find individual episodes, you can download all of these on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. So until we see you again, I want to remind you of one thing, that here at the network, we believe in Auburn and love it. The only question remains, do you?